Fancy seeing you here. Welcome to Torwen.
Who's this Jabori you're so worried about?
I haven't heard from him for too long. I've got a bad feeling.
Everyone look! Swimming under the bridge.
Careful, I heard something.
Who feels like a little chat with the critters? Perhaps we can help each other.
Don't bother us. We don't bother you.
Are you Jabori?
Can you help me?
Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. I'm hoping that the audio level's good, but if it is not, just let me know and I'll try to adjust it. So, well, this is July's community stream. So as we always do, one per month, we just gather around so we can talk directly to the community, the players. You guys can ask us questions directly as well, so that, you know, we don't always have to go through the comment section of the, you know, news articles, because it's kind of hard to have a discussion, right? When it's kind of like, oh, we write like a full article and you guys then ask us questions, and then we have to wait like maybe 2 weeks for the next article to come in, and sometimes we don't even address those questions because we're talking about something else, right? Okay, so I see that people are saying that the audio level's good, so I'll just assume that we are good to go. And so yeah, welcome to the stream. Like I said before, today what we're gonna do is that we're gonna, well, of course we're gonna like answer any questions you guys have, but we'll also take some time to discuss like the feedback that we received regarding the announcement for the Ruleset 2024, because as you know, Solasta 2 is going to be moving from the 2014 Ruleset of D&D 5e to the 2024, the new rule set of D&D 5e, because it's still technically 5e. Like, we like to call it 5.5 internally because it's easier to understand, but this is basically how it goes, right? So we've announced it. There were people who were really happy about it. It's normal. We were expecting that as well. And then we published some articles to explain a little bit more, and we had like people, you know, also giving us their opinion on it and sharing, you know, their worries. And we didn't like, because we're gonna move on from that topic, right? Like, we're not gonna talk about that for 3, 4, 5 months, but we just wanted to like wrap it up before we moved on, so that people understand that we're not like just sweeping it under the rug. That's not the intention here. It's just that we're not going to be, you know, like, we can't really talk about that for like 3, 4, 5 months, right? It would be kind of boring at some point. So first of all, let me be clear. We have, and like we wrote in the previous article, we have decided that we would be moving to the 2024 rule set, and this was a decision that we made as a company, as a team. So some people were kind of surprised about that, because we're very, very, you know, community focused. In Solasta, Crown of the Magister, we often did surveys, we often did like, you know, contests and all that kind of thing. And they were wondering, well, why didn't you guys ask us about that, right? Like, because we would have probably, you know, liked to give our opinion beforehand. The reason for that was because, like, the reason why we didn't ask in the first place was because we wanted to be sure if we wanted to do it, right? It's a big decision. We're not just talking about having a class before another, or just implementing, I don't know, like one new feature. This is like the base of the game. Like, you know, it would be saying, hey, we're gonna do our next game is gonna be Pathfinder, not D&D, right? When we go around those big decisions, we need, as a company, to be sure that we want to do it. And some people are kind of looking at that and saying, that's kind of weird. Like, you're making a game for your players. So why do you do what you want to do? And that is because if you have seen, and you probably have seen a lot of like games chasing after trends and chasing after what people want, or at least what they think people want, it ends up very often making a game that doesn't really have a soul. It's like, oh, we think people want this, so we're gonna do that. Like usually games that you remember are games that the people who worked on it wanted to make. And this is basically why Solasta 2 is going with D&D 2024, is because we want to make a game with the D&D 5e 2024 rule set. This is something that we want to do, and this is something that we think that we'll be able to do properly and give you guys a good experience. It's basically the same thing when we decided to do the first game, right? Solasta, Crown of the Magister. When we decided to do this, it wasn't because we thought, oh, well, people are going to be wanting a D&D 5 game because, I don't know, like, it could, like, for example, let's say, oh, yes, because we watched Critical Role, we know there's a lot of people who want to play 5e, so we're going to make a 5e game. That's not the reason. The reason was because Mathieu, who is our CEO, has been playing D&D for the last 20, 30 years, and has been making video games for the last 20 years, I think. And he decided, well, with my experience, with my money, with my time, I'm going to be making a D&D game because that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to do a D&D game. So I'm going to hire people who like D&D, and we're going to make a great D&D game. And that's what we did with Solasta Crown of the Magister, right? Like, if you're here, probably it's because you like Solasta Crown of the Magister, right? If you didn't like it, well, okay, well, you might be there because of curiosity, but basically, you get what I mean, right? We did Solasta Crown of the Magister because we wanted to do a game about D&D 5e. That is a little bit old school as well. You could when we compare that to Baldur's Gate 3, for example, right? This is the elephant in the room. So, of course, Solasta is 10, 20, 50 times smaller than Baldur's Gate 3. So, of course, we can't have the same quality, and that's fine. That's not what we're trying to say. But you can even see beyond the production value also some decisions that you may feel a little bit old school, right? But that's also the reason for that is because it has Mathieu's DNA in that game. It has a lot of our, developers' DNA in that game. Mathieu, for example, is a little bit more of an old school D&D player, so he has a little bit more focused on the, gameplay, the combat section, the encounters, all that kind of thing. And the story might be a little bit more classic. It's about a party of heroes saving the world. We are not trying to explore the, intricate human relation within the party or stuff like that. We were really going for, hey, you remember those good old games like Icewind Dale, where you just played a party of characters, or Temple of Elemental Evil? What if we did that, but with 5e and with, more recent graphics and with more recent, game engine? That's basically how Solasta came to be. So, going back to what I was saying here about using 2024 rule set, this is basically the same thing, the same thought process as when we did Solasta 1. We wanted to do something, and we did it. We did it, and we did it with passion, and we did it with a lot of hard work, and we did it because we wanted to do it. Solasta 2 is going to be the same. We promise you that we are doing this not because we're chasing a trend, not because we're thinking, hey, 5e just updated, we need to do the new 5e, but because we looked at the rule set and we played internally. We have, we have D&D sessions. There's a campaign going on. I would want to say every Tuesday evening, but truth be told, scheduling is a pain in the butt for adults. So it's not always every Tuesday, but there is a game, being played, and there's several other games being played outside the company, so on our own time with our own friends. So basically, we played that, and we were like, you know what? We like it. Not everything is perfect, of course, just like every update. I saw some people saying, hey, but what about how they, changed the Ranger? Now it is all around Hunter's Mark. And yeah, it's like maybe the Ranger isn't the best update, but the previous Ranger was also not that great, right? So there is going to be always some things that we don't necessarily like, but overall, we thought 2024 was a real interesting update. Notably for the weapon masteries, because, we always said, hey, martial classes kind of boring at some point. You just hit people, right? It's simple, and it's simple is good sometimes, but you could do a little bit more. And a lot of other things were a little bit streamlined also, so that it's less complicated for newer players to be like, okay, so wait, this spell works, but only if the enemy is wearing a metal armor. How do I know if there's metal armor or not? All those kind of things, like, heat metal and all that. Well, to be fair, heat metal didn't change, but they removed some of the very specific interaction, like if I use Shocking Grasp on an enemy and an enemy is wearing metal, then in that case they get disadvantage, which I do agree gives some flavor, but is also very hard to get into when you're a newer player. And I think that's pretty good, because if you are an experienced DM and with experienced players, you can still say, you know what? Makes sense. I'm going to allow it as a DM, and I'm going to give you advantage on your attack roll. All right? So stuff like that, right? So you can do that. It's not necessarily required anymore for the DM to know every single little rules like that. Okay. Actually, I see that there's been a lot of questions because I've been yapping. So I'm going to be just checking out if there's anything that you guys wanted to ask. Here we go. Okay, so one question that is a very, very relevant one is from someone with the name in Cyrillic. So I'm sorry I cannot read that because I just don't know how to pronounce it. But they are asking, why release a demo in 2014 rule set and then switch? This is very simple. It's because we didn't know yet if we were going to do the 2024, and we also weren't, like, the SRD 2024 wasn't released yet. So we were not able, because we were not legally able to make a 2024 rule set in the demo. So we still wanted to, because we were announced Solasta. So we wanted you guys to see how the game feels like. So we released a demo with the 2014 rule set. And now I understand some people are like, okay, well, in that case, wouldn't it be more accurate to re-release a demo in the 2024 rule set? And that would be correct. But the thing is, reworking a demo, basically a demo, you have to understand, it's like a snapshot in time, right? So it's not like we can easily just make the updates on the games we're working on and suddenly it retroactively applies to everything that's in the demo. No, it's not like that, because the demo has been made like in an older time. So like a lot of systems don't work anymore because we've updated it, we've upgraded it. There's stuff that was not in the demo that is now in the game. So reworking the demo to make it work in 2024 rule set would be very time consuming. It is possible, but that also means that if we do that, we are pushing back the early access by that many more weeks or months. So we believe that it's not necessarily a good thing. And to be fair, in the demo, there's no character creation, and a lot of the 2024 changes touches the character creation and the higher level skills or features. We are talking about the demo where you have a pre-made party of 3 characters that are level 3. And the changes are relatively minor from 2014 to 2024 within the context of that demo, right? So that's also why it is something that we have not decided to do. Of course, you can say this is being a little bit misleading, and you would be right because, well, it is not the same system at the end of the day. But the option here for us is either we remove the demo or we leave the demo online and people can basically have a taste of what Solasta 2 is like. Because Solasta 2 is more than just a rule set, right? It's about a tactical RPG where you play as a group with a little story, with dialogue choices, with a combat system. And in that sense, the demo is still relevant because it's not going to change everything. Like, even if we were, let's say, and I'm not saying we will, even if we were to change the rule set from D&D to Pathfinder, the demo would still be relevant in that this is what the game will be like. Of course, the small minutiae details about, okay, so instead of attacking 1d8 plus 2, it deals 1d6 plus 4, maybe. That's going to be, maybe a difference, but the experience you get is not, it's pretty much the same. Okay. Let's see. Is there any other questions? I see. Well, really wish you guys were sticking with the 2014 rules. The way I'm looking at it now, it's just a video game based on 2024 rules. It's yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's normal that people, like I said, it's normal that people have different opinion, and we cannot judge you for it, right? It's like we cannot say objectively 2024 is better, and that's not what we're saying. It's just 2024 is different, and we like the changes that they made, but not everyone do. And in that case, it's fine to say, oh, well, in that case, maybe I shouldn't buy Solasta 2, right? And that you'd be absolutely right. Like, if you don't like 2024 rules, you may want to like wait a little bit, right? You can look at people playing it, because there will be streamers or YouTubers, and you can see if you're like, okay, those rules are really not for me, or you might be like, you know what, I can try it out. Remember, there's also a 2 hours refund on Steam. So at the very worst, you can try to play a little bit on yourself and then refund if you don't like it. Or maybe in the future, but like I don't want to make promises because again, it's not based on our or anything we do. It's like we know that there's been modders for Solasta 1, and maybe there will be modders for Solasta 2 that will implement the 5e rule set, the 2014 rule set. So if that happens, you may be like, okay, well, now I'm gonna try the game, and that's perfectly fine. I remember, for example, for Pathfinder, the first one, which was Kingmaker, I didn't buy it at launch, and the only reason I bought it was because I found on Nexus Mod a mod that made the game turn-based. After that, I think they even implemented a official turn-based mode, but basically I played the entire game thanks to the turn-based mod. Because I hate, real time with pause. That's just something I don't like. It's not a bad system, it's like, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 use real time with pause. It's just, I didn't like it. It's just my own personal opinion. And that's the same for you if you don't like 2024 and you like 2014. It's absolutely okay, right? It's like, there's no wrong opinion there. It's just your taste. And my taste also prevented me from playing a otherwise very good game until I had a mod to make it fun for me. Okay, I see. Okay, let's see. Are you only using OpenGL rules, or do you have the right for all rules for 2024? First of all, it's not OpenGL. it's basically the legal terms have changed. In the past, you would be right. You use the SRD under the Open Gaming, say OGL, Open Gaming License Agreement, right? But now they removed that after the big OGL, debacle 2 years ago, where they wanted to update and people were unhappy with the terms, and now it's basically Creative Commons. So they released the SRD, and you can use the SRD under Creative Commons. We're not in a contract with Wizard, if that's the question. We don't have access to Forgotten Realms or most of the subclasses. And that actually ties into a question that we saw. Was someone in the comments in some of the articles were asking, is it related to are you doing 2024 because Wizard asked for it, or Hasbro asked for it? We are not in contact like this with Wizard, right? Like we do talk to Wizard because we are making still like a D&D adjacent game, so we're still in contact with them. But we are not under Wizard is asking us to do that, we must do that. Like, we want to do 2024. Now, it's not Wizard asking us to do 2024. Okay, let's see. The best games are those the designers want to play themselves, like at BG3 or at Clair Obscur. Yeah, and actually that's a very good point, right? one thing that you could say for, like, when people are saying, you should make a game that your players are asking, you should, like, you should listen to your players and make the game that they want. In a way, that's not necessarily wrong, right? I'm not going to say, oh, no, you should not do that. No, you should listen to the community when there's things that, and we have done that in the past, right? Like, some of the things, we are going to be like, okay, why are people not happy? So in the past, I always use this example, but in Solasta 1, when we were in early access, we changed the lighting system to a homebrew one, and people really didn't like it. So we were like, okay, well, if people really don't like it, then we can just change it back to the homebrew, the normal version, the rule as written version, and we did that, and people were happy. So, and of course, like, some people weren't happy because, like, they liked the new version, the homebrew one, but we can't make everyone happy. And at the end of the day, because one of our promise was we are a game that sticks to the real rules as much as possible, it made sense to listen to people who were like, this is not necessarily why I got the game. You made a promise, and this is not delivering on the promise. And, that's fair. So we were like, okay, we're going to change that. But at the same time, to go back to the example I wanted to give, is we, as a company, you cannot just run after what people want. Because if you did that, a very, very good example, recent example of that is Larian Studios. By all means, BG3 was such a big success that you would be thinking it only makes sense that Larian should be doing a DLC for Baldur's Gate. But Sven actually came out and said, you know what, we were working on the DLC, we were beginning on thinking on the DLC, and we realized as a company and as a team that we wanted something else. We've been working on Baldur's Gate 3 for the last 5, 6, 7 years, I think at that point. And they were like, we actually want to take a breather and work on another project. And they actually said, we are not going to do a Baldur's Gate 3 DLC, even though they scheduled, like, they kind of, like, were expecting to do it. That's exactly the same thing that we're doing right now. It's like, we know that, some players want something, but we still want to listen to what our heart dictates and not just become like a drone. And that's, you can see that Larian Studio did that, because they know they do quality job when they actually care about the things they're working on. Will Solasta 2 have a level cap? Yes. Solasta 2 will have a level cap. It will have a level 4 cap during early access, and a level 10 cap in the full 1.0 release. It's kind of similar to Crown of the Magister, where we are thinking about in the future, how are we gonna do level cap increase. I remember Solasta 1 had a level cap increase to level 12 for free at some point, 6 months after release, I think. But I cannot guarantee that, right? Because usually when we make a campaign with a level cap, it's balanced around the level cap. So if we suddenly pop it up to level 12, maybe the last fights are going to be like super easy, stuff like that. But we know people want level cap increase. Like, we did a survey, remember, guys? Oh, by the way, this survey, we have like this survey going around since the announcement of 2024 Ruleset. We're going to be closing it at the end of the weekend. So if you still haven't voted on stuff like what classes you want to see first, what races you want to see first in game, which feature you think is more important for you, make sure to go and fill up the survey. I don't have the link right there, but probably someone in the chat can like link the survey to you guys. So in that survey, right, we had a question which was, which of the future content update are you looking the most forward to? Like, what type of content update do you want? And I think by far the most popular one was higher level cap and high level campaign, kind of like Palace of Ice for Crown of the Magister, which was, here is a continuation of a campaign. Well, to be fair, like Solasta 2 may not have a continuation in the campaign. Like it's like usually what we're trying to do is the campaign is self-contained. We don't want to be like, you arrive at the end and it's like, to be continued, and like, oh yeah, well, I paid $40 for this game. Like, what do you mean could be continued, right? That's not what we want, right? So just like Crown of the Magister, we want to have a campaign that is wrapped up, that is finished. And then maybe, maybe there's a DLC that we can create to explore some of the unfinished ties or business. But that is not something I can tell you now because we are not sure yet. Like, we are working on the main campaign. So we're not making plans already to sell you DLCs when the main campaign is not even complete. We're not like, that's not how we do things. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Baldur's Gate 3 actually have a few rules from 2024. Not sure which came first, the chicken or the egg. I think BG3 was more like they were working in close relation with the design team from Wizard of the Coast. So it's probable that they have, basically exchanged on some of the things that may not be very, easy to implement on computer, like in a video game. We also did, some changes in Solasta, if you remember. Like, not everything is exactly rules as written because some of the stuff is really hard to do on computer because it's very, very variable depending on what the player wants. So maybe what happened with BG3 is like, some of the things that maybe it's Larian Studio going, hey, maybe it would be better if we did it like this. And then maybe the designers were for Wizard were like, oh yeah, maybe that makes sense. And, thinking about D&D 2024, it would make sense to implement that. Or it could be the other way around where the designers were already giving in advance some of the changes, saying, hey, it might be better if you do it this way because the game is going to change in the future and have this instead. Let's see. So Lone Wolf is saying I might be a little bit crazy to say that, but I preferred Solasta combat, in comparison to Baldur's Gate 3 combat. Actually, quite a few people think that, because Baldur's Gate 3 it does a lot of things, and Solasta, in the other hand, is more like focused on combat. Like Solasta is just we want the combat to shine, so we put a lot more effort on the combat than anything else in our game. So that's why some people kind of like think that, hey, Solasta combat is kind of, we like it better. It's more crunchy and it's more according to the rules. But it depends on the people. Let's see. Icewind Dale and Pathfinder could be interesting. Yeah, it could be. Icewind Dale 2 is one of my favorite old D&D games. Have you played 2024 in tabletop? Yes, we have. Martial class did need that. Okay, yeah, I'm very, very late on the messages because I keep on yapping so much, right? Yeah, Monk got a very big glow up. Yes, I do agree. Monk got a glow up. The Rogue got like a little bit more, versatility on the sneak attack where they can trade some damage for different conditions, which is always a little nice because like sometimes you're just like I don't need to deal more damage. I just need to like have utility. I like Barbarian as well. Barbarian, I feel like it's pretty nice. Let's see. Would multiplayer be available in early access? And if so, what sort? Is it different from PCs as Baldur's Gate 3 or even couch co-op? So it will not be couch co-op. The reason for that is because couch co-op is actually pretty hard to implement. So this is something that we've said already, but Solasta 1, if you remember, was supposed to be a single-player PC game. And then we added multiplayer, and it was not supposed to be working in multiplayer, so it did work, but if you played multiplayer, you know that there were some annoyances, right? Like some things didn't really work as normal, some things desynced and all that kind of thing. And we did our best to make the game good, right, in multiplayer. But there's always going to be some of the things where like this was not designed to be working in multiplayer in the first place, so we kind of hack it around, right? Solasta 2, we want to avoid that. So we work on Solasta 2 with multiplayer in mind since the beginning. And same goes with the consoles. Solasta 1 was not necessarily designed for console, so when we did the console version, there was kind of like some stuff that was a bit iffy. So here, we have console in mind as well. And that means stuff like couch co-op that is very demanding, especially for consoles, is very hard to implement. If you remember, even Larian Studio, with the huge 800 people or more team that they had to basically put a cross on the couch co-op for one of the Xbox because it was just not working. So we don't have that sort of manpower. We're like 35 people. So couch co-op, we know it's a very, very nice feature because we love to be sitting on the couch with our friends and playing the game together. But it is not something that we can really work on because there's just so much things to do, and couch co-op is not one of the priority. Multiplayer, to answer your question, multiplayer is not here at the beginning of early access, but we want to implement it during early access so that people can try it out before the 1.0 come out. So again, no promises, but that's the plan that we want to stick to. Will we see the Dragonborn? That's a good question. I do not know yet because the Dragonborn is one of the more complex race to implement because of the fact that they're really different from humans, elves, dwarves, halflings. So it's one of the more complex race, and I know it's one of the more popular race too. But at the moment, at least, not in the early access. How are the responses on the survey going? How many answers do you get already? I cannot give you the exact number because you usually don't give numbers like this, but we do have a lot of people who answered. So that's at least people are interested in getting their voices heard, which is good, always good. Regarding the survey, do people prioritize the adaptation of the half race? If yes, are we going to see a half set list? No. So half races, you have to understand that. The thing, what I think 2024 did for the half races, and I do agree that they didn't really do it properly very well, is that I think the problem with 2014 is that they only had half races in some cases, like half orcs, half elves, but there was no half dwarf or half halfling. I guess that's a quarterling, or half dragonborn. That didn't really exist in the books. So I think what they tried to do, and I remember during the playtest moment where it was in the Earth Arcana, they said something along the lines of, you can do half races, but it's just that you will take the gameplay bonus of one of the parents. And that's just it. But you can do half whatever you want. But in the 2024 PHB, when it came out, and that's what people criticize, and I kind of agree with them, is there was nothing about those half races anymore. No paragraph, no text. It's as if they didn't exist. So, of course, some people were getting very angry about this because it's like, what happened? Like, did they just get nuked out of existence? Did we just retcon the fact that half elves exist? And I don't think I don't think that was the intention. I think the intention is just, okay, gameplay speaking, it's just you can just you can just paint whatever you want. Like, you want to have elf, sure, just pick the human or elf bonuses. But the thing is, because they don't explain it, it's kind of like, well, I don't know what to think about it. Going back to the question of half cyclists, of course, making half races is going to be time consuming, right? Because it's one new race to add to the game. So for now, we're not even sure we can add all the races we want. Like, I just talked about the Dragonborn. So the priority would be to add the races that we can add. And there's an exception for half elves and half orcs. The reason why is because they were in Solasta 1. So we did poll in the survey about if people were interested in having the half elves and half orcs back. If you're not interested, you can just say we're not, in the survey, you can say that I'm not interested. I just put all the other races before. But for those who are interested and who wants to see those half races coming back, then there is a possibility that we do that. Again, when we do 2024 Solasta 2, it doesn't mean we're just closing our eyes and being like, la 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 la, nothing exists outside 2024. No, Solasta 1 exists, and there's still stuff that we like from Solasta 1. So, maybe we're gonna do half elves in Solasta 2, even though it's not 2024 ruled as written. Is there already a PC requirement to run the game in full 60 HD 60 FPS? No, because usually optimization comes later during the development cycle. And even during the early access, you may be like, having problem with optimization and performances, because usually the huge optimization tasks are at the end when the game is out. Well, not when the game is out, when the game is kind of complete, so that we can actually test it. Because if we only test it on one level, maybe that level is going to be optimized, but then let's say you add like a volcano later down the line, and you cannot just expect the volcano to be optimized the same way as the city that you came from. So suddenly you go into the volcano and the performance go to shit, and you're like, oh, well, no. So that's why usually optimization are done towards the end. So I cannot give you any information on that because I don't know about it. 2024 and 2014 are not that different. Yeah, I agree. Well, that's the reason why it's still 5e, right? Just update the demo to have a screen saying it. So yeah, but updating the demo, it's still like, going back to a different build with a different version of Unreal Engine and all that kind of thing. But you do have a good point. I think we should add like a line at least on the Steam page to say that, fair warning, the demo is using 2014 rule set, and we're going to be using 2024. When will you close the survey? We will be closing the survey like Monday or Sunday, Monday. Well, when I'm back in the office after the weekend. Oh, by the way, yeah, it's a long weekend because the 14th of July is a holiday in France, so I'll probably close it on Tuesday morning. Holy shit! I just realized now that people are talking about turn-based versus real-time with pause, which is like 20 minutes ago because I keep on yapping so much. Switching the option between Ruleset 2014 2024. No, I already said that in a news article. It's just not possible because it's just too much work. Not only in the term of the rules themselves, but the classes also. If you toggle it, it can break everything because the subclasses are not gotten at the same level. So what happened if you toggle and that you're level 2? Let's say you're level 2 cleric, right? And you are in 2024, and then you say, oh, I want to toggle, I want to play 2014, and then you suddenly toggle 2014, and it's like, oh, well, technically I should have a subclass now, a domain. So what happens? Suddenly a pop-up happens, and you have a level up, but it's not really a level up, it's just choose your domain right now. So it kind of breaks the entire flow of leveling up and stuff like that. And it's also the same for monsters. Monsters, they don't work the same in 2014 and 2024. There are some monsters now that have magic powers as attacks. I think the priest in 2024 has kind of a radiant strike where they throw radiant bolts at you for 2d6 or 2d10 radiant damage, just as if it was a ranged weapon. Whereas the priest in 2014, they don't have that. They have spells sacred flames and stuff like that. So every monster would need to have a 2014 version and a 2024 version. And I can tell you right now, I'm helping implement the monsters in Unreal Engine. We don't have the time to add additional monsters that are not going to be existing unless someone toggles an option back in the settings. I'm not saying I won't play the game. I definitely will be playing Solasta 2 during the early access. Guys, don't force yourself. It's not we're not like a sports club or a fan club, whatever, right? It's if you feel like Solasta 2 is going to be a game that you probably like, yeah, sure, get the game. But don't feel in debt to us because you like Solasta 1. And then you're like, I must support them for Solasta 2. It's very appreciated. It's just when, some people ask us, is there any way we can do donations? And I'm like, no. We sell you a game, and if you like the game, you buy the game. If you really enjoy the game, you can even, gift it to your friends. But we're not gonna take your guys' donation. There's a better way to spend your money. And we're very flattered that you guys want to support us. But don't feel like you need to give more than you should, right? It's at the end of the day, we're developers, you're players. You don't feel the need to shell out tons of money for us. And same goes if you don't like 2024, don't feel in depth because you like Solasta 1 to get Solasta 2. Just, there is a limited amount of time and a limited amount of money. There's a lot of very good games out there, and I'm sure that if you don't like 2024 and you're not sure about Solasta 2, just wait a bit, take your time, and maybe get it if you finally feel like it's a game you would enjoy to play. But don't feel like you have to buy it day one. I would be the first to tell you, don't pre-order games, don't buy day one, or actually buy day one if you're informed and if you looked at the game and you know what it's about. But I'm the first one to wait a little bit before buying games, because I want to support developers, but I also want to be careful about what I put my money into, right? Do you plan to optimize the game for Steam Deck? Yes, absolutely. We are so probably not during early access, because early access is going to be PC focus, but we have, like I said, focused on having Solasta 2 thought for consoles and PC. And when we say console, we also think about Steam Deck, which is with twin sticks and all that. So our ideal will be that Solasta 2 will be Steam Deck verified, or at least playable. Because for example, Solasta 1 was playable and not verified, but I think the only reason was because the icons and everything, the text was too small. Which, to be fair, it's an RPG with a ton of text, so it's a bit hard. Is the early access the real story? Yes. So the demo is a standalone story, like we said. The demo has nothing in link. Oh well, actually, I can't say nothing in common with the actual campaign. It's just it's a piece of an alternate, let's say, timeline of the main campaign in a small, very small, area. The early access, however, will be the main campaign. It will be just the 10, 15, 20. I think it was early access probably going to be 10, 15 hours. But it's 10, 15 hours of the beginning of the game. So, and I think the game is supposed to be just like Solasta 1, something like 40, 50 hours long, something around that. If you just play the main campaign. So yeah, it's a piece of the main campaign. It will be continued after release, and to be honest, I even think it's possible that some of the early access update, if we do Solasta 1, may add a bit of content. Solasta 1, if you remember, when it released, you could only go to the Wizard Tower and get the crown by fighting the Sorax ambush. And then the next update, we added the Necromancy Gem, where you get into Dark Castle and you had to fight the very infamous Aksha that killed a lot of runs, especially early on, because very early on she was very strong. The balance was not necessarily as crisp as before. It was very challenging. And I remember also that Aksha, if I remember, after in 1.0, we even added a milestone leveling. If you arrived in front of the chamber and you were not level 4, I think, it automatically leveled you to level 4 in prevision of the boss encounter. Because some people were rushing the main story and they arrived level 3 or something and they were getting absolutely smashed by Aksha. So yeah, those are kind of stopgap measures. But yeah. Will we have full customization of character and classes in early access? Yes, you will have character creation in early access. Not every option will be available, so early access will release with 6 classes, I think, if I remember correctly, which is the fighter, cleric, ranger. Fighter, cleric, rogue, and wizard, which are the 4 kind of base classes. And then we also have the paladin and the sorcerer, which are going to be included as well in the pack. For the 1.0, we hope that we can have all the 12 classes, but at the moment, like I said, it's not a guarantee because it will really depend on, how much money we have, how much time we have, and all that kind of thing. Do you want a close relationship with Woodsy Hasbro, more access to the copyright stuff? It's a thing that we sometimes discuss, because it's not a charity, right? If we want to use copyright stuff, we have to pay. That's just how it works. That's why there is a question, right? It's do we want to give a significant percentage of the revenue to Wizard of the Coast in exchange for using, their world and stuff like that. And maybe maybe we do. Like, again, like I'm not the one designing here because I'm the community manager and I do design, but I'm not the one going, hey, this is what we should do, right? that's more Mathieu. So if Mathieu wants to do something in relation with Forgotten Realms, for example, or Greyhawk, then he'll probably ask you. Are you looking at SRD updates? Yes, we are using 5.2.1, but usually the SRD updates are very consistent, as in it's mostly corrections. Like, oh, the SRD 5.2.0 forgot to mention X and Y, and so they are added to 5.2.1. Usually there is very little update in terms of content or like rules. Will there be Tiefling and Warlocks in the beginning? Not at the beginning of Early Access, no. Early Access will have 6 classes, and they will have the 4 classic races, which is human, elves, dwarves, and halflings. So, okay, how many levels we can advance in Early Access? Level 4. You mentioned being careful with stuff that makes the game play slower, like Intro for Defense Smite or Stunning Strike. 2024 will have more of those. Yes. With Method of Mastery, Cunning Strike, and all that kind of thing. So, the Burb, this is actually a very, very good question. So we are like experimenting with a few different ways to do that, like toggles and stuff like this. So we are trying to see which one we can automate. For example, for a lot of the weapon masteries, it's automatic. Like, you always want to use Sap or Vex or Nick, right? The one that we are not sure, the one that you have to decide is push. Because you might not want to push, right? Because like if you push and then you have no more movement, you're like, how can I attack again? So some like push may require like either a button press or a toggle, or we're trying to see which one feels better. So we're doing some stuff on our end, testing, and we'll get you guys in the loop. Have there been a decision about Solasta 2 on GOG? So at the moment, we're not planning Solasta 2 on GOG, but we don't know yet for 1.0. The reason I'm saying that is because like GOG is a very nice platform, but it also takes a lot of time to basically work, because like you cannot just take the Steam version and put it on GOG and suddenly it works, right? GOG, you need to remove the Steam Workshop if and when we're gonna add Steam Workshop. You need to like have different there's a lot of things in the backend that works differently. So that means that whenever we did a new update for Solasta 1, we had to do one for Steam, one for GOG. That means we have to test on Steam, we have to test on GOG. It's like we double the amount of work. And GOG, let's be honest, very nice platform, and the anti-DRM and all that kind of thing is cool, but it's also very few sales. There's not a lot of sales on GOG compared to Steam. It's like not even like comparable. We're not saying like it's like 90-10. It's much more. It's even more than 90-10 when we consider the split. So it's hard to have. It's really, really hard for us to like justify, hey, we're gonna be going on GOG. Let's see. Please let cantrip scale at level 10 like in BG3. Probably we're not gonna do that because like for the meat and potato, which is like the combat and gameplay, usually we just stick to the rules, because when we start doing homebrew changes, it never ends, right? It's like, oh, we should, like, this would be better if we did this, and this would be better if we did that, and it's like slowly you're like moving away from the actual rule set. More of a flavor question, will Solasta 2 have more of a generic roster equipment like in the original, or there will be really original and unique equips like in BG3? So we want to have more interesting magic weapons and magic armors and all kind of thing. Because yes, of course, doing my entire game with a +1 plate and a +1 shield and a vanilla sword that is like +2 and +1d6 fire damage, it's a bit, it's a bit bland, right? So we're trying to design more interesting stuff, but it's also a lot of like basically a lot of work. Not in the sense like, making a weapon is not necessarily a lot of work, thinking about the weapon, but it's like you make the weapon, then you need a concept artist to like draw the weapon, then you need a 3D model artist to make the weapon in 3D, and then you need to VFX artist to make sure that the weapon, if it's like a fire weapon, to have like fire effects on it, all those kind of things. It's like it's not free. So like I designed a whole lot of like magic weapons and magic armors, and it's more like, do we have the time to make them, right? And if we don't, it's not anyone's fault, right? I'm not gonna go and say to my production directors like, oh, how dare you not add the weapons, the magic weapons, like people were expecting that and they would have fun. Yes, of course they would have fun, but they would also have more fun if the game actually had a finished campaign, right? So like, although I often butt head with my the production director, who's I really value her and she's a very good friend, but it's like it's normal that she is basically cutting bits and pieces out because she has the vision on how much time we have and how much budget we have. And at some point, if she says we're not gonna do those super interesting cool magic weapons, it's not because she hates fun, right? It's because she knows that if we do that, it's something else we don't do, and maybe that means, oh, you wanted that black dragon at the end of this level, well, it's either that black dragon or those 5 additional swords. And it's like, okay, well, in that case, maybe the black dragon is more interesting than 5 cool swords, right? So yeah, to answer your question again, it's like, yes, we want to have more unique equipments. We're not gonna have as many as BG3, let's be honest, right? But we do want to have like cool stuff. Let's see. I see someone saying I failed the survey multiple times. Please don't do that. Like, I know you can, but again, like the only other option is to ask for people to put like a email address or something, and it's like we know a lot of people don't necessarily want to put their information in. Just let's be honest, right? It's like an honor system. Do you plan on sticking to the default background and stats for character creation, or are you planning to give players more freedom? So backgrounds right now we have created like the homebrew backgrounds that we have. By the way, I just created the character and I realized that probably I need to rebalance the stat around the backgrounds because there was very few options that gave you constitution and intelligence, and I was like, okay, so if I want to do a wizard and I want to have constitution, there's only one choice, and that sucks. So I'll probably have to go back and try to like adjust the balance of the stats a bit better so that people have more choice when they want to do a certain build. We are not at the moment making a custom background, but there has been discussion around that because of the fact that we know players have been saying that they are interested in having that. So it's probably not going to be at the start of the early access, but if it's something you really, really want, please don't hesitate to say that when the early access comes out, so that, and give your arguments so that we can bring it up to the design team and go, okay, so there's actually a lot of people who want the custom backgrounds because X and Y or Z, so that allows us also to have like a external point of view. Right now it's more like it's hard because like we're basically right now you have to imagine it's a marathon. Like everyone is on their bicycle, their head really like head looking at the road, and they're pedaling as fast as they can because the goal is to reach the end for early access. But when we get there, we are going to be able to look a little bit up from our, bicycle and look at people around us and be like, okay, maybe we should do X and Y a little bit more, right? Question is, I like the demo. I believe that the dice rolling is a bit too small. Yeah, that's actually a good point, and I don't have an answer to this. So I'm gonna explain this little conundrum we have. Solasta 1, let's be honest, was a little bit too slow. The combat was a bit too slow. Everything took a little bit too much time. And if you compare like BG3 to Solasta 1 in terms of like speed, you will feel like Solasta 1 is a bit slower. Like Baldur's Gate 3 is a bit snappier. We don't necessarily want to copy Baldur's Gate 3 because again, like we think that the combat in Solasta is a very, very good and strong selling point. but we do want it to make it a little bit more snappy, so that you don't have to stand there waiting for super long every time someone plays. But because of that, you also have less time to see the dice rolling. So there's a little bit of balance around that. Where do we put the dice? Where do we show the dice? How long should they appear? All those kind of things. So it's a very minute balance right now that we may not have perfected yet. So again, that's one of the things that is very good to mention when early access comes out. If you feel like, the dice rolls were too small and you cannot really feel like this feeling we had in Solasta 1 where it was like, oh, it's like the tabletop, right? You have like this dice roll and it feels good, right? If that's the case, please let us know, because right now the only opinion we have is internally because of, the game is still being worked on, right? So the demo, like I said, is a snapshot in the past, but we're moving on to other things. So when the early access comes out and it will be actual game being the game we worked on, this is actually what we're working on right now, and you say, okay, in this actual version there's this and that I feel isn't really up to par, then please let us know. If custom dungeon and campaign maker return, will it be possible to add custom or existing voice line in Solasta 2? I don't necessarily think so. So the way the Dungeon Maker was made in Solasta 1 was that you couldn't add content. You can only take content that exists in Solasta and then just, move it around to make your own dungeon, to make your own campaign. Why is that? Because in terms of security, it is much easier to let people download stuff that is just saying, hey, this is a custom dungeon. It takes all those assets that exist in Solasta, and it puts them in specific areas or monsters in specific areas so that you can play this new campaign. It's safe. Now, if you allow people to start uploading their own files, right? Like, oh, we're going to be uploading images. We're going to be uploading voices and all that kind of thing. I'm not saying it's bad, right? Like, I love mods and I download mods all the time. And probably I should be more careful about what I'm downloading, but whatever. It's right now my computer hasn't exploded yet, but it's more complicated because when you start doing this, that means that for example for the consoles, you are probably not going to be allowed to do that anymore. Like the consoles may not be able to download custom dungeons if the content is not verified by a human being. And I can tell you, I don't have the time to go open every file that is being uploaded and being like, oh, that's a Nazi signal and that's a no-no, right? And I'm sure not a lot of people would do that. Like, there's going to be trolls, right? But it's not like 90% of the people are going to be trolls. No, most of them are going to be making a very, very interesting dungeon and campaign and all that kind of thing. But even then, I remember going in Solasta 1, opening some of these files, and I'm like, holy crap, these guys have spent days and weeks making these, and they are fantastic, but they're impossible to read because you have 50 billion links between a trigger and the NPC that there's like 50 quests that just like basically turn on and off at the will of a button or whatever. So we are not able to guarantee that we can moderate that, and because moderation is compulsory in a lot of platforms, even though we may not want to, it makes things complicated. But again, that's because also when we think about Dungeon Maker, we are try to keep it simple so that people can use it, and so that we don't need like 5 years to make it work. By the way, this is not a promise that Dungeon Maker will be existing, right? It's like we want to do Dungeon Maker. If anything, we have the will to do it. It's just we don't know yet when or how we can or cannot make it. For the graphics, for the demo, the graphics were quite blurry. Was that intentional? No. So we have actually we have investigated that because it was very confusing. We're like, why are people saying it's blurry? Like we're looking at our screens, and it's not necessarily blurry. And I think what we noticed was that people who had 4K screens or like 4K resolution, like basically anything above 1080p, sorry, anything above 1080p. there probably was some Unreal Engine like preset fuckery where it added like additional bloom or whatever, which made thing blurry. So that's why on our screens, when we were like, because we're working mostly on 1080p, we're like, I don't understand, like, what the hell is blurry? By the way, when you say that, when you say something is blurry, please take screenshots or even videos. It's better. Like, by basically pointing out, it allows us to be like, oh no, actually it is kind of blurry, right? Because people were saying it's blurry and then they didn't upload anything, and we just go like, oh yeah, well, where's the blur, right? It's like, oh, when you talk to an NPC it's blurry, and then you go and you're like, no, it is not. Like, is that a specific NPC that's bugged? Or so it basically wastes a lot of time for us because we have to figure out where the problem is. So in the cases like that, we realized after a while, because some people were saying I'm using this graphic card and I'm using this resolution, and at some point we're like, they're all using good graphic cards and good resolution, so that there might be something linked to that. So yeah. Solasta 1 did not have multi-classing, blah blah blah, to keep my optimizing within check. Are you implementing it for Solasta 2? Are you going to keep the ability score requirement? Yes. So multi-classing, yes, absolutely, it will be in Solasta 2. It was even in the demo. It's hard to see because the multi-class is fighter cleric, which, to be fair, it's like we did that because we wanted to show and prove that multi-class works, but it's not the best combo. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, you're rarely going to be thinking, I want to do a cleric fighter multi-class. No, usually you might be like, I want to do a sorcerer with paladin multi-class, or a bard paladin multi-class, or stuff like that. It's often I realize it's often like charisma classes, because I was going to be saying warlock and sorcerer. It's like oh, good, that's charisma as well, right? So I think we will be implementing the ability score requirement, which is 13. So if you want to do multi-classing barbarian, it's at least 13 in strength. That kind of makes sense. You can easily do couch co-op by using 2 controllers attached to a PC. Yeah, it's kind of like a hack, right? It's like, technically it's as if there was one person in front of the PC, but because there's 2 controllers, well, like someone can play, like, basically if someone stopped touching the controller, it's just kind of like, hot seats in the good old time where you were playing Heroes of Might and Magic with your friends, and you would just like play your turn, end turn, and then someone else would go on the seat and play their turn. In that sense, you kind of do couch co-op. It's like you play you play together the exploration thing, where it's like one person just like controls and just play around and the other person watches, and then during combat it's basically like, oh, here, that's my character, and then I give you when it's your turn, I give you the keyboard. You guys did a good job with multiplayer. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we were very surprised about multiplayer because, again, we actually said during the Kickstarter of Solasta 1, no, we're not going to do multiplayer because we are a new company. It's our first game. Multiplayer is too much risk, so it is the single player game. And then I remember at some point, for the little story, like we released the game and we were talking about DLCs and what we should be, like, what kind of thing we can do. And at some point, I think Mathieu, so the CEO, just came back and was like, but really, couldn't we try to do multiplayer? And I remember Karim, who is our technical director, who like basically go, you know what? I'm gonna take a look. And he basically managed to make it work, and it was like, well, in that case, let's try to work on that, and let's try to make it work. And it's like, it was really like kind of a, well, just kind of a, oh, well, let's do that moment. Like, it actually works. So it was pretty crazy. Hope they change the visuals and sound of Eldritch Blast. Solasta 1's version of Eldritch Blast is anti-climate. I know what you mean. Eldritch Blast in BG3 is so satisfying, right? I cannot guarantee they'll be as good as BG3's Eldritch Blast, but we did ask for projectiles to be going a little bit faster than Solasta 1. Because like Solasta 1 projectiles were very slow. It's kind of like, right? It's kind of like, so we wanted to make it more snappy. Will Grostet make a cameo appearance in this game? No. I mean, we love the guys at Sendfall Interactive. We are also in the same umbrella company. Like we're both part of the Kepler Interactive, but there's no reason why Ghostet will make it in Solasta 2. Can you give the approximate number of the survey result? No. No. Chances we get early access release soon? No. We did talk about 2025, and to be fair, it's like there's a lot of work, especially since we're also taking in the 2024 changes and all that kind of things. So we want to release the early access in a state that makes people want to play the game. We don't want to release like a half-baked game and be like, oh, but it's early access, like it's normal. Just wait for the patches. Like we want the early access. Of course, there's gonna be bugs in early access, and the content is not complete. Let's be honest, right? That's early access, but we still want you, if you buy the early access, to be able to play the game and to have a good experience and be like, you know what? I enjoyed my time, right? I paid, and the game is not complete, but I didn't pay to just launch the game and be stuck after 1 hour, right? That's not what we want. Character creation, can I make a bearded mage? I don't see why not. What do we have here? Technically, it's backward compatible. Oh shit, my cat just like stepped on every single button on my soundboard, and now I'm pretty sure that something's broken. I'm gonna ask you to go down. There we go. Okay. Are there a hint of playable kobolds? No kobolds and no goblins. Kobolds, it would be great. I understand. I love those little critters as well. But kobolds are doubly the problem that we have with the Dragonborns, because not only they are not humanoids, now they're dragons. But on top of that, they are also very small, so it makes things even more complicated, right? So yeah, goblins. I don't even know if we have goblins. I don't think we have goblins in Solasta 2. We did change the bestiary quite a lot between Solasta 1 and Solasta 2, because Solasta 2 is happening in different continents, so that we didn't necessarily want you to fight the same things over and over again. So you might not encounter the same type of enemies that you had in Solasta 2 compared to Solasta 1. Immersion for race recognition? Oh, do you mean like there will be, will there be specific dialogues for specific races? I don't think so. We will have specific dialogues for certain roles, I think, and maybe classes, but I don't think for races. Solasta 1 seemed to lack graphic for a beam. Yes. We still don't have beams in Solasta 2 at the moment. I asked, because I was like, hey, can we do this? And they were like, oh, beams don't exist yet. Like, we have not worked on making a beam for Solasta 2 yet. So that's why, at the moment there's none, but there's probably going to be one. I don't know yet. Will the price during early access be a bit lower than 1.0? Yes, usually we do that. It's like a little bit of a... Like, there's a little bit of discount during early access because the game is not complete. Let's see... So far, will you play the same character of the demo or with your own characters? You will be making your own characters. Technically, if you play the demo, you might have noticed that the party is actually a family, and that's basically how it's going to be set up for the campaign. You're going to be playing 4 characters of the same family. But you will be able to create like different races if you want. Like, you can make a family with a dragonborn, an elf, a dwarf, and a human if you wanted. Don't ask me how it's gonna be working out. I don't know. Don't bite me, cat, please. My cat he's being such a menace right now. He wants pets. Because I'm not petting him, he's like biting and nibbling my arm, being like, pay attention to me. I'm streaming. My boy, streaming. Solasta 2 in the demo, we walk in the village, and it's awesome, the exploration. Can the game be more open to explore with bigger areas? So, There will be exploration in Solasta 2, but I don't know how big the areas will be. I think they will be pretty big. I think they will be bigger than Solasta 1. Let's see. Is Solasta 2 a sequel of Solasta 1? Well, technically speaking, it does happen later. It's, I think, 70 years after Solasta 1. But it's not the same place. So there's very little connection between the two. Like, you will maybe have, like, lore about Solasta 1 being like, hey, you know, you remember the party that saved the world and all that kind of thing? But it's not like you will be, you know, meeting them or anything. Let's see. The game would be 10 out of 10 if you got nuked by the final boss at level 6 instead. Well, there's a few things about that, right? If it was an open world and you could be like, oh, I done fucked it up and I'm getting my ass kicked, and I'm just gonna like go back and explore some more and you know, level some more and go back, that's fine. But you remember in Solasta you cannot run away. So that's also one of the problem where it's like, oh, well, you're stuck in the level now and you need to like beat the boss before you leave the location. So we can't make it so that you're hard stuck, because otherwise you're like, oh, what happened if I didn't have a save from before I entered this location? I'd be completely screwed over, right? Like my save file would be bricked. I wouldn't be able to like move on. And to be fair, there are games that do that, right? Like, for example, in XCOM, if you're going late game and for some reason you enter the fight and you have like just the crappiest team ever, and you're like, I can't really get out of that unless I load a game, like I load a save file from like 10 hours ago when I made the wrong decisions. But Solasta, we don't necessarily want to do that, right? It's like, we don't want you to feel like you just tossed away your 20 hours of gameplay and you got like attached to your party and all that, and you just can't do anything. It'd be a bit sad. Was it intentional that in Solasta 1 you could preview the full stat and effect of magic item that you craft? Do you mean that you couldn't preview? Is that something that you? Because I remember there was like a problem in Solasta 1 in the past where the description when you were crafting was only showing the description of the basically the crafting recipe, not of the actual item. So you were like, I don't know what the hell I'm crafting. Like, it's called bloody sword. I don't know what it does, but it sounds cool, so I'm just gonna craft it, right? If that's the question, it was basically unintended. Like I said, the thing is, it showed the description of the crafting recipe instead of showing the description of the actual item, so that, you know, you couldn't know what the item was. Will the game be available in Portuguese or Spanish? So Solasta 1 was available in Portuguese, in PTBR, so Brazilian Portuguese. And we know there's a lot of Spanish people who want to play Solasta 2 as well. Like, we've seen N tilde everywhere, especially being spammed on Twitter. And we also know that looking at the population of players for RPGs, like in BG3 and, you know, all those kind of games, it's actually not so far behind the other languages that we're translating for, like in French or German. So as soon as we have the budget for it, I think we will, like, you know, if we do additional languages that we didn't have in Solasta 1, Spanish is definitely one of the top contenders. Any chance we can make the dialogue more meaningful? So meaningful, I guess it's more like a question of writing, and that I cannot guarantee. It's just, you know, I hope our writers make dialogues more meaningful. But if your question is more about the checks being for the best party member, this is because in Solasta 1, every, like, basically a character could not have more than one answer. So if there was a tag saying cowardly character, because you remember there was personality tags in Solasta 1, right? Cowardly characters will have this dialogue option. And then it's like, but you can also persuade. But the thing is, like, your cowardly character has +8 persuasion, and the other characters have like +1. But because he's cowardly, he gets he gets overridden and he gets a specific answer. That means that the persuasion check goes to one of the others, because like this one character cannot have more than one dialogue option. This is how it was designed in Solasta 1, so that the entire party could talk and wasn't always the same guy with +8 in charisma that could talk. In Solasta 2, I think we have decided to basically throw that away because there was too many people who were like, yeah, but like usually when I made a charisma character, I will give them the persuasion checks, the intimidation bonus, the persuasion like the deception bonus, because everything is linked to charisma. So it's normal that I just put the proficiency in all those skills. I'm not gonna give my proficiency in persuasion to one guy and then have my barbarian with 10 charisma decide to pump intimidation because he will roll like shit, right? So because of that, I think in Solasta 2, if I remember correctly, now you will be able to have one character with multiple answer choices if they are the one that are most suited for the roles. Let's see. You guys aren't using AI, right? Okay, so I think you mean like generative AI, which I understand right now is a big like fear for like a lot of people, because Gen AI is associated with a lot of bad things, like people making Gen AI images that very often don't even make sense, or they write Gen AI text so that it replaces the writers and stuff like that. So we are not using Gen AI. That's one thing that I can guarantee you, because if we were to use Gen AI, I would actually blow a fuse and probably basically be very unhappy with my boss. But I can reassure you, he is not in the idea of using Gen AI to replace artists or writers or anything. We are using AI because AI has always existed way before Gen AI for a lot of things. For example, procedurally generated content. For example, when you want to make a foresty area, you don't want to put all the trees by hand, right? You want to have a base with trees and grass and maybe like water and stuff like that. And there is a program that's called it's not Niagara, sorry, it's Houdini, and Houdini is used by a lot of gaming companies and has been around for like a much longer than the Gen AI. And this is, for example, AI that we use. Other example, Photoshop is AI, right? Like Photoshop has filters and stuff like that. It's AI. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, be careful about just using AI as a blanket term, because monsters have AIs, otherwise they wouldn't be moving, all this kind of thing. But I do understand that it's more about the Gen AI that is being a little bit of the issue, where we don't want to have people replaced by just very poor quality AI driven stuff. Will the result of the survey made public? We usually don't do that because the numbers and stuff like that is always going to be private, but we do usually share a couple of the things. For example, like, hey, here are the races that people wanted the most and all that kind of thing. I don't trust your mustache. Yes, I wouldn't trust my mustache either. It's actually not very, very mustachy. Are classes with weapon mastery going to be carrying around a golf bag of weapons and changing them mid-turn? I understand this, but I also think that it's a little bit overblown. There's really times where you want to like swap around weapons during the fight all the time, because first of all, it's tedious. So even if you can do it, do you really want to do that all the time? And second, like unless, because again, we're not level 15 or 20 where you have like 5 attacks per round or something. We're probably going to be capped almost at, like, if you go up to level 10, you have 2 attacks. I think it's level 11 for the 3rd attack, right? Yeah. So level 10, you have 2 attacks if you're a martial class, and maybe you have a 3rd one because you have like a light weapon and you have like a offhand weapon. But then again, if you do that, then you already know that the offhand weapon is probably going to be like Nick or something, right, as a property. So in the first weapon, you must have light. So you're kind of limited. So there we go. You showed a monster that has petrification. How will that work? So for the you're talking about the basilisk, right? So the basilisk right now has basically right now petrification is just death. In the future we're gonna try to have like kind of like a shader or some like effects that make you turn into stone, but effectively we're just gonna make it simple so that you can like resurrect, because otherwise it's like actually I don't know, maybe we're gonna do something special where you need to have like a special like, I don't remember what can turn you back into flesh if you need like a greater restoration or something, but we might not go the whole way. It might just be like death. Romance is a bit of a question mark at the moment. We might explore that, we might not. Will it be possible to keep the same shield equipped in different slots? It's a bit difficult right now. I understand what you mean, right? It's like, I don't want to be carrying 2 shields if I want a shield and mace and a shield and nothing. But at the moment, it's considered, like, when you equip them, it's considered that it doesn't exist anymore in your inventory, so it's a bit complicated. I don't know. Maybe I can ask again, see how it goes. Oh, there we go, cat. Just go down, please. Don't go on my keyboard. Let's take some of the D&D. Is there a solution to avoiding game over screen when we run out of PC that can cast Raise Dead? No. Because this is too complicated. The reason for that is because there is, the Solasta has a lot of dialogues where you're kind of like stuck, like after the combat you have a dialogue or something, right? And every single dialogue is made so that 4 characters must be there for it to work, because otherwise it really bugs out. So imagine you have 2 dead characters and 2 characters that are like, I'm gonna bring them back in the city. Then if there's a dialogue after the fight, what happens? Like, everything fucks up, right? So there's too many specific situations where it might not work, which is why it's going to be like, hey, do you have Revivify? Do you have like anything to revive your party? If not, game over. Don't listen to them. We like the goatee. Thank you. Will the game have better hair model for custom characters? Yes. The game should have better character just overall, right? Like, we know Solasta 1 was pretty weird, like it wasn't great, right? So it's kind of Play-Doh. So in Solasta 2, we do want to have like good hair, good like, and to be fair, I think, no, I cannot show that to you. Like, we're working on the character creation right now. I've seen, like, we're going to be like doing internal playtests as well soon. For everyone in the team to, like, because we're working on the game, right? So we rarely have the time to set up a day so that we can actually play the game. We just stop working, we play the game. And to make it easy, like, we've already made a party of adventurers so that people can just make one character and then just jump straight into the game instead of having to make all 4. And I've seen or marketing artists working, like, on the character creator and trying to make the characters, and there's some very good looking stuff in there. So I'm pretty confident that it's going to be great. Let's see. Will the spell still have associated words? Yes. I've even seen that in some of the like playtest stuff. Could we have a game option that allows only race rolls available for any 2 cats? Oh, yes. I think so. I think in Solasta 1 we did have an option for basically scrolls can be cast by anyone. Did we not have this? I think we had an option so that anyone could cast using spell scrolls. Because yes, otherwise usually you're limited to a few certain classes. Any chance you'll let us dye our character outfits in this one? There have been discussion about a basically dyeing system and maybe even like a transmog system. It's something that like a lot of people were kind of interested into. But the thing is more like, do we have the time, right? Again, like, everything comes down to time. It's like when I talk about the weapons, right? The weapons and all that kind of thing. Like we want more weapons, we want more armors. But yeah. What language did you use for verbal spell in Solasta 1? It was invented language. You can ask the designers and the writers, I think. But yeah. You can also use the crown that gives you one character for one cast of Revivify. Yeah, well, in Solasta 1, yes. In Solasta 2, no crowns. Since Allcat abandoned Pathfinder for now, would you guys consider Pathfinder 2E game? Or also, what do you think of Daggerheart? So, Pathfinder 2E is interesting because of the fact that it is linked to D&D, you know, still at some point. But like I explained earlier, when we make a game, we want to be making a game that we are like. The reason why we're making a D&D game is because the company is full of D&D nerds who love D&D, right? Pathfinder, we don't have the mastery of Pathfinder. We don't play Pathfinder. So if we were to make a Pathfinder game, we would probably take some time to play the tabletop. Like, let's say, maybe, let's imagine that we are nearing the end of the development of Solasta 2, and we are already convinced that we want to do a Pathfinder 2 game for some reason. Then we probably will start internally to do like a Pathfinder 2 campaign. At least with Mathieu, who is the CEO, so he has the creative vision. With Xavier, who is the game director, so he has like basically he's also responsible for the gameplay section and stuff like that. I would probably be playing as well because I would be like, you know, community lead, so I have to interact with people who will play the game. So if I don't know Pathfinder 2nd Edition and we make a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game, then my word would be completely pointless, right? If I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So it's not, if we were to do it, it's not that easy. It means we need to take time additionally from work, because usually when we play those campaigns, we don't play during the work hours. We play after work hours because, well, it's still pleasure, but that means it's still a lot of time, personal time that we take because we pride ourselves in making something that is good, right? So we do need to like do that on top of the actual work we do. And same for Daggerheart. Daggerheart, I'm very interested to learn more about it because again, it's like, oh, it's something made by Critical Role, and those guys make, you know, very good content. The idea of having a Daggerheart, it's also new, right, compared to Pathfinder. So it's like, oh, what is it? It's shiny, it's new, right? So I haven't played Daggerheart. I don't know anyone who plays Daggerheart. Unfortunately, I don't think it's very popular in France. So that might be a bit difficult to find DMs who play Daggerheart. But I definitely am interested to like try it out if I can find a DM. We discussed about the downtime when rest. Could we include some activity or banters? I think. So I don't know about activities, banters. I know there probably will be some when you go around the world map, just like in Solasta 1. But again, it's one of those things where it's like it's cherry on the top. It's like it would be great to have those, but it's not the primary, worry right now. Any chance you might create your own RPG system in the future? And create a world where tech and magic... Okay, so there's two different things, right? There's the game system, and when we think game system, it's like Tactical Adventures has been made around using existing game system because our promise is to adapt a tabletop game system as faithfully as possible with as few changes as possible into the video game so that you have the feeling that you have on tabletop when you're playing the PC, right? So I think it's more likely that we would use existing gameplay systems, but we are never going to say never, right? Like maybe we're going to invent our own gameplay system at some point. When you're talking about the lore, a world where tech and magic coexists, this is completely different. This has nothing to do. Like we could do D&D in a world like that, right? But this is more a question of like the creative director and the writers. Like if the writers want to explore a world where magic and technology intermingle, why not, right? I don't know if I already said that in the past, but there was one point where we even considered working on a sci-fi game, a completely sci-fi game, no fantasy involved, just sci-fi. We talked about it internally, we had like discussion about it, but ultimately the biggest issue with that was that it was so far away from Solasta 1 that we were kind of like, okay, we just released Solasta 1. Are we going to be throwing away all the community that we've built so hard to get by just doing something completely different? Which probably would be great as well. It might be a very good game, but it's like so different from Solasta that I cannot necessarily say that Solasta player would be interested in that game. So yeah. What else? The combat in Daggerheart is very similar to Drawsteel. I haven't played Drawsteel, so I wouldn't be able to know. Have you looked at Tales of the Valiant from Kobold Press? No, I haven't. I have not. What can we expect in terms of playing time, and what will be the average length of campaign? So I think, but again, take that with a grain of salt because, you know, all those things change as we just move on because we're still working on the campaign and the content. I think the early access is like 10 to 15 hours, and I think the full 1.0 game is anything from 30 to 50 hours, depending on like if you just do the main campaign or if you just start like doing additional side quests and all that kind of thing. I know you might not be able to get all the classes right now, but would you be allowing to try to get Artificer in? Artificer is an SRD, so like, you know, again, if it were something we wanted to do, we could probably do a homebrew class that would be a little bit similar in theme. But again, Solasta has never been really about tech, so not sure. Any thought about the Dark Eye system? Oh, I don't know about that. I didn't even hear about that one, contrary to like Tales of a Valiant and all that kind of thing. Are you folks planning to keep the difficulty sliders? Yes. So you can like customize your gameplay if you want to. I truly hope you guys can explore a lot of more verticality in Solasta 2. Yep. It is something we want to do, but I do not know yet how much there will be because it will depend on the levels and right now. Will there be recruitable NPCs? Yes. This is something that we have mentioned in the past. We are not going to increase the party size to 6 because some people were asking, yeah, party of 4 is too small, etc. But there will be NPCs that can level up, and that will be like that will have their own, like, you know, personality and all that. That you will be able to have with you. I think the maximum is 2, so the maximum in the party is 6. But you will be able to have like NPC with you. I don't know if you can have 2 with you at all time. I think it might be 1 and then a slot reserved for like mission NPCs. But these are NPCs. Like, they're not part of your party as class. You cannot control their inventory. You cannot control their leveling up. They are not necessarily going to level up exactly the same as PC classes. So yeah, just be careful. It's not like an extra character. Can you say something about multiplayer in early access? I already said that it will not be there in the start of the early access, but we do want to have it released in an update during early access so you can try it. Are they going to show any new gameplay? No, sorry about that. I know. A lot of people want to see gameplay, but right now it's still very hush-hush. I remember Solasta 1 being quite linear, Solasta 2 have more options, alternate endings, and the ending itself. So there won't be like evil good ending and stuff like that, because again, like we're not gonna allow you to play, like you can't really play an evil run. If some people have asked us that, right? You're not gonna be going around and like, you know, killing everyone and like going murder hobo. It's not BG3 level of customization, but you will be able to decide like which faction you align with, and depending on that, you will get like kind of different things happening. Not every faction is good aligned, so in a way you can play, like, you know, you can side with the evil factions, but evil doesn't mean like, haha, I'm burning down like orphanage kind of evil. It's more like authoritarian kind of evil, you know. So like, okay, well, this is our this is our place now. Just like, you know, everyone else has to move. Those kind of things. Okay, and I think, can you show any more production art? No, sorry. Maybe next time. But usually art we are showing during the news articles because it's a little bit more controlled. During a stream, there's a lot going on, so can we expect any returning characters? No, because Solasta 1 was 70 years before Solasta 2, and is also in different continents, so there's very little reason why you might have returning characters. You might have, like, you know, lore drops, like, you know, like some books talking about the heroes of Solasta 1, but no, probably not. Unless, like, the designers have, like, you know, prepared something that I'm not aware of. Spanish language, please. I already said it. Spanish language is one of the things that we're looking into there's a lot of people who want it, so we are going to probably add it when we're adding new languages. New Game Plus is not something that we're thinking about because it's a D&D campaign, so it's basically level 1 to 10, and once you're level 10, if you do like the New Game Plus, you're just gonna roll on everything. Maybe a recognizable elf could be passing by, maybe. How will Cleric work in respect to choice and deity in subclasses? Yeah, so I think right now the idea is that when you create your character, your Cleric, you can choose a god, and then the domains are going to be free choices. Like, basically, you can choose any god and choose the domain you want, so that we have a split between gameplay and lore in this one, because it's like easier for that. Because exactly, like, you know, we don't want you to be like, oh, I didn't know I would be locked out of this subclass because of the fact that I chose that god, right? Are we gonna have gang signs for each faction? No, but they will have like a banner, right? I think one of the god choices is Mizrim. Nope, I'm not a god in this world. I'm just a community manager. New Game Plus is a great idea. How do you think we can do New Game Plus though? Like, you can't be level, like, you can't keep your level, because if you kept your level, you'd be rolling on everything. And you can't keep your magic item either, because like what happened with the unique items? What happened? You would be rolling on people too, right? Are you keeping the ability to preview and level characters before starting the game? No. So the possibility to do that was done because of two things: the Dungeon Maker and Palace of Ice. Dungeon Maker made it so that people could make campaigns that started level 5, so you would want to have a character that's already level 5, right? So we allowed you to like level up manually. But in Solasta 2, right now, the only campaign is starting at level 1, so we're probably not going to spend time in a tool that allows you to level up on the side. Polar Master and Sentinel was the reason I installed Unfinished Business. Will Solasta 2 have this? No, Solasta 2 will not have reach weapons. Again, reach weapons are kind of complex to do. You need like usually a different set of animation depending on if they're close or far. So right now, we don't even know how many weapons we will actually get in game. Like, I have a list, and then I'm like making the monsters, and then I realized that I gave the monster a Warhammer, which is on the list, but when I look into the Unreal Engine, there's no Warhammer there. So I'm like, okay, well, I can put a placeholder for now, so the enemy is just fighting with a purple light stick. Have you played Elder Scrolls Online? No, I haven't played. Well, I did play, but like ages ago. I played when it just got released, and it was very buggy back then, so I stopped very quickly. An entity time travel so you can get back to the start of the game, but as a different faction. Wow. Yeah, I think the best would just be to start again the new party and just try the other factions. Will you do another Q&A soon? Oh, well, this is a Q&A actually, so if you have questions, just go ahead. Otherwise, it is getting pretty late, so I'm still around for like 20 minutes, but to be fair, if there's no other questions, I'll be closing the stream pretty soon. So yeah. Let me know if you have more questions before the thing is over. This may have been answered before, but will we have personality system? I think it's a little bit different in this game. You will have roles. So basically, if you were there when I talked about it, Solasta 2 will have a little bit more of a set start where you're playing 4 characters of the same family. I'm not gonna elaborate on that because that would be spoiling, but because it's 4 characters from the same family, you'll be able to assign a role to each character, which is like, for example, the troublemaker child or the golden child, or those kind of things, right? And this will also impact like the dialogue options and how they banter. All right. Do we have other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to be wrapping it up. So let's see, because I know there's a little bit of delay with YouTube, and some people may be asking. New Game Plus? Oh, guys, come on. I already told you, New Game Plus is probably not going to be a thing. I like the difficulty in the demo. Hopefully you keep it that way. Campaign, you got too strong too quickly. Okay, so I see that you're talking about the belts. I think this is not necessarily because of the campaign, where the campaign being like, basically the belts is not the fault of the campaign. Like the campaign difficulty is independent from the belts. I think the problem in Solasta 1 was the belts were accessible too early for too cheap. And if you played recently, like we did an update, I think 2 years or 1 year after, where we adjusted the prices of the magic items, and the belts got severely increased in price so that you couldn't go for, oh, I'm going to do a barbarian, but I'm going to dump strength and give him 8 in strength because of the fact that I know I'm going to get that belt. Have you just considered having different styles for armors and weapons? What do you mean by different styles? Like they have different skins. Do you play D&D or other TTRPG with colleagues? I used to. I've paused that for now. But I did play like 2-3 years, 2 different campaigns, I think. Once as a DM and once as a player. Timetable for early access? It's a secret for now. I see Cattail. Yeah, that was Millie. That was my very, very, very shy cat that came back from the balcony. But she hates people. Like, if I approach her, it's fine. If anyone rings the bell, she goes hide under the sofa. Because she did not have a very happy childhood. So, so I adopted her, but she's still very, very, very careful about around humans. Are you planning to include all the classes in Solasta 2? Yes, this is basically our wishes. We want to include all the classes in 1.0, but we're not necessarily sure yet that we can do that. Multiple ends? Kinda. Like there will be different endings, but it's not like wildly different. It's not like BG3 level of differences. How many of you guys are PSG fans? I wouldn't be able to tell you because I don't care about football or soccer for our American friends. Maybe avoid items that provide fixability and instead give... Yeah, well, I mean, the fixability items is rule as written, like they exist. And I don't think we should remove them, but I think they should not be so easily available. So they will, like, we have created those for Solasta 2. They have not been added to the game yet, but once they are, they will be very expensive. Very, very expensive. Forgive me if you discussed this already. No, don't worry. How are you handling long and short rest? Okay, so short rest is just like in Solasta 1, where you can do as many short rests as you want. You're limited by your, hit dice and all that kind of thing. And you're also limited by the fact that you cannot do a short rest near enemies. For the long rest, it's also like in Solasta 1, you need rations and you need like a fire camp. so you cannot long rest everywhere. Will you have your own playable original race? We did ask in the survey if people were interested in the Cyclists. But for the moment, it doesn't guarantee that we'll be having playable Cyclists, because Cyclists are also, just like Dragonborn, kind of hard to make, because they're not very resembling humans. When or if is early access? Again, nothing new here. Nothing new. We're aiming for late 2025 right now, right? It's 2025. We did say 2025, so we'll give you an update when we give you when we know better. A different skin that can be selected. Oh, okay. No. So I did talk about transmog and dyeing the color and all that kind of thing. It is something that we have thought about, but it's not a priority. So right now there is no plans for that. It might happen, but we cannot guarantee that it will. Are you playing more community activities like the ship captain name and letter challenge? Yes, we are. But right now we're quite busy on a lot of things. But during early access especially, you should be looking out for that. Notably, one thing that we have in mind is, that we have a world map and we have Hexploration now, hex crawling, and we probably will be making a contest to include player written events. You enter the woods and you run into a group of monsters, and you have different skill checks, those kind of things that people will be able to do. Again, we'll be able to correct spells going through walls. This is something that we want to address. Yes, it is known. It's not something that we're unaware of. It's just work, but this is notably something that I often mentioned in Solasta 1, and the team is aware of it. So hopefully we can do that. Will ability checks play a major role in Solasta than in Solasta 1? Probably, yes. Especially because there's more events due to world map exploration. Familiars? Probably not. Probably not. Will there be an overmap? Yes, there will be a world map, and there will be hex-based travel. I would love a Genasi being included. I think it's not in the SRD, so we cannot add the Genasi. We could do half elementals or stuff like that, but again, it's not in the top list of priority. Okay, and I think with that, it's a lot of questions answered. So I'm going to wait an extra 1 minute to see. Okay, another question. Any chance for random encounters that isn't just combat? Yes, this is already planned. Solasta 2, we already planned that the random encounters are not always combat. It could be skill checks, it could be loot, it could be combat, it could be NPCs, and all that kind of thing. Will there be some sort of player base? Oh, you mean a place where you go back to? I don't know. This is something that we are discussing. Will there be a nest inventory such as bags or backpacks to organize inventory? No, but there will be more filters so that you can easily filter out I only want to see weapons, I only want to see armors and stuff like that. Okay, I'll wait another 30 seconds, see if there's anyone catching up that still needs to ask a question, and otherwise I will be tuning off. I'd love to see a ship boarding sequence. Wow, that's a lot of work, my friend. Can we get a more solid system to flee from combat or solve more peacefully? We actually explored that, Itoman, but it made things very complex because how do you reset the encounter, right? It's you flee, but imagine you're in the location. Imagine let's say imagine Solasta 1. You're in Dark Castle. You run into an encounter, and you run into 7 zombies. You flee. Where do we make you spawn, right? We make you spawn maybe a little bit back, but then the zombies are still here. So what do? You just go back and start the combat again, and do they get their HP back? Or it's complicated. We wanted. Don't get me wrong. I ask a lot about, hey, can we do running away so that people are not stuck when the combat starts, and they're like, oh crap, it's 2 dragons, I'm boned, right? But I think it's a bit too complicated. Party class rerolls with us starting the game over? No, that's not possible because again, we are talking about a story-based party where you cannot replace a character with a new one. Because they're, especially here, you're basically four people from the same family. So you cannot just like say, "Oh well, Josh dead. Don't worry, I got Bob here, who I met in the tavern, who has no fucking idea what the quest is, but he's cool, so he's just gonna be there with us, right?" So that doesn't work. I want to commend you for having those developer streams. Very few companies do that. Well, thank you very much. It does warm my poor little heart. So we do want to stay accessible to the player. So basically doing that once per month allows anyone who has questions to come in and to talk with us, so that, you know, we are not hiding from anything. We're not, you know, I can tell you if I cannot answer or stuff like that, but yeah. Yeah, fleeing, making enemies go away would make it very hard, right? Again, it's like how do you make it so that you don't, like, you know, make enemies flee all the time, you know? So yeah, peaceful solution to enable storytelling would be great if we had the writing to support it. But again, we're a small company. We have 35 people. We have like 2 writers and 1 is part-time. So it's not like we have the capability to write all the scenarios and the dialogues for peaceful end of combats. What I mean is like turning one character from Paladin into Warlock. Oh, you mean respecking? I think respecking is something that we're exploring. Solasta 1 we didn't have respec, but Solasta 2 we kind of want to because of the multi-classing. Because it's very easy to screw up your build when you multi-class and you're like, oh crap, I did something that is completely useless and now my character is borked, right? So I think it's something that we were meant to look into. So it's not a no, it's a high chance maybe. All right, love the cat pictures on the Steam update. Thank you. We love to put them here. All right, well, thank you guys all for joining today, and I hope I answered a lot of your questions, and we'll get to meet each other again in a month. So remember the survey, it ends in 4 days, I think. So when Monday comes around, I think the survey will be closed. So if you have not answered the survey yet and you want to answer the survey about Baldur's Gate... I read Baldur's Gate 3 and I say Baldur's Gate 3 because brain is fried. Now, if you have anything you want to add about which feature you want the most, which class you want the most, go and answer the survey. You can find the link probably, like, you just go on our website and look at the news. There's like one of the news talking about the survey. And yeah, otherwise we can meet again next month. You can also find us in the Discord server. Sometimes I do drop by and answer a few questions. And a lot of people in the Discord server also, like, you know, follow a lot of the news and the streams, so they might be able to answer the questions even if I'm not around. And yeah, is the alpha? It's not an alpha. It's the early access. It's going to be a fraction of the overall story. Yes, it's going to be like 10-15 hours of the full 30 to 50 hours game. And yes, next time you want the cat cam, I know, but it's very hot and the cats are not sleeping on the cat tree anymore. I think you can see the cat being behind me, right? Yeah, she's on the sofa. You can right there. Sorry. There we go. All right. Well, in that case, that will be all for me today. I'm gonna go feed my cats before they attack my keyboard again. And I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. Goodbye.